So what do you hate most about your co-founder? Hey guys, it's Ethan and Dennis, co-founders of Expresume. We're gonna do some rapid fire questions just so you guys can get to know us a little bit better. Question one, what do you like about your co-founder and what's one thing that they could improve on?
Well, one thing I like about Ethan is that he's very optimistic, I'd say. Like, there's always a smile on his face, and I think that high energy is very contagious. And one thing that I feel like Ethan could improve on is how he deals with frustration, sometimes how he interacts with the team. It's very emotional, very passionate, I'd say. And sometimes that passion can turn out to be very unreasonable. So I think in that sense, he could improve on controlling that better in a way that's less strong.
Dang, man went right for the heart, right at the beginning, just like, but no, you're right. And that's something I've definitely been failing a lot at, but a lot of lessons been learning from how to be a better leader, how to be a better servant in that sense. So thank you. I really do appreciate that. As for yourself, well, what can I say? Calm and collected. Dennis really is able to keep us on track, keep the boat safe when things get really rocky. I'd say when things get tough, I know that I can rely on Dennis to pull through with a lot of tasks or even just steering the ship when I can get stressed out. Very grateful to have him as my co-founder. One thing Dennis could definitely improve on is just asserting himself more. He knows a lot about what needs to be done at the end of the day. It's just whether he's confident enough to say that. And that's something I recognize he's been growing in as well. But I'd say in terms of improvement, Dennis, you know what to do. Just act on it. What was the biggest lesson you've learned from failing to launch this past May?
It's always been kind of the same thing. We have plans that we failed to meet, or there's always technical difficulties, scheduling issues. And I think a big part of what we've learned is it's always been communication. And we've always been constantly improving on how we do our communication, from a more laissez-faire style to a more stricter style to changing how we do our meetings. I think that's been the biggest lesson that we've learned. And also managing our team. It's always been what is the right amount of instruction for each person. And as we've continued development the last month, I've really learned the strengths and weaknesses of each member on the team and how to best align those with our goal of launching.
Sometimes God keeps us in seasons until we learn the lessons he wants us to learn. One thing that I really learned from this past month was learning how to be a better leader, learning how to best communicate, how to express urgency while still being rational. These are things that I definitely have neglected in the past, and that's kind of led to like a lot of what built up in May, failing to hit the deadline. It was a very big learning experience because it allowed me to realize, hey, like there's more that I can do to support the team instead of, getting frustrated at the situation, like taking ownership, taking responsibility, being a servant leader, showing more mercy and grace, and empathizing with the situation rather than complaining about it. Another big thing is like culture fit. Culture fit is huge in terms of making sure that we understand each other's communication styles, our expectations of each other. Not everyone works the same way, so being able to understand where everyone's coming from allows us to work in a better cohesion as a team. Okay, which task do you like and dislike the most at the startup?
This one's a tough one because I mainly focus on development and product vision, but most of the time I'm purely doing development anyways. So I think that the tasks that I like the most is having the freedom to decide what features we want or where we're heading. I enjoy that the most, as well as managing the team. So when I'm not doing the work and when I'm just delegating, I think I like that the most. Obviously, it's not that easy when we're a small team in the startup. And the thing that I dislike the most is 100% debugging. There are always just so many bugs that tend to be critical, very stressful. That's the part that I hate the most. I wish things would just work right out of the gate, but reality is it's not perfect the first time around.
I'd say one thing I really enjoy is the creative aspect, whether it's like the designs or marketing content, being able to just ideate, come up with engaging and creative ways to engage users or viewers. That's always been my bread and butter. So being able to do that full time for the company has been a huge blessing. One thing I do dislike is probably taxes. Oh my goodness, just Any legal stuff, I can't wait to hire someone to do that. But until then, I will. What's been the most memorable experience at the startup?
We've had so many great ups and downs that have been very memorable. So I think I'll start with a memorable down when our first CTO, Kieran, left. That was kind of an eye-opener. We were working for 4 months, 5 months, or longer together, and then he's like, we've had enough. Again, that was our first sign of bad communication. People didn't step up to do their full potential. Everyone was brimming with talent. It was just really bad that there was no communication of how to manage this talent amongst each other. That's definitely been memorable and quite honestly a shame, because I'm sure that Kieran again is very talented and could have gotten us very far. As for a memorable high, I think it would have to be winning Tree Frog's accelerator pitch. Basically fresh out of the summer internship with the Mayor's Innovation Challenge, we didn't know where we stood, fresh grads, new idea, and just going from I think like 1 out of 40 teams and being first, I think, was the biggest highlight. It was just all around really fun, really great, and we met some friends along the way.
I agree with both your points. Kieran leaving really did feel like a breakup. There's a reason why they say like co-founders are like, it's like a marriage. But I think that was a huge wake-up call for me, because at the end of the day, communication is a two-way street. And I recognize there were so many things that I could have done to not blame, not condemn, but to empathize and understand with the situation going on. Our first time we hired interns, it was a pretty big misuse of resources and time, because that was the first time we were hiring. We didn't know how to best manage or operate as a team. So the idea of interns was great, being able to get help, being able to offload tasks, but without clear guidance, clear instructions, the interns didn't have as big of an impact as we initially intended. That was a learning lesson, because through those failed experiences, we've been able to improve our hirings and our processes now, where we have people like Tim being able to do really well in the work environment. I actually really enjoyed finishing the Mayor's Innovation Challenge, the internship, because it was nice when we went to go pitch in Kingston. We took the 407. We were able to offset that cost because the government was able to pay us back for that. So you and me driving along the 407, I was like, wow, this is what driving on capitalism feels like. Not a lot of traffic. It was beautiful. Really enjoyed that. Another memorable moment was hosting our first hackathon at Centennial College with WIMTAC. That was the first time I felt like, wow, being like a CEO, I have gained some wisdom over the past years, and being able to share that with a lot of the students that were asking questions like, I'm in college, would you hire me? I feel insecure, or I'm not sure about my position in the job market. But just being able to speak like truth and encouragement and life into their situations was just such a rewarding experience, because I know what it's like to feel like your worth is based on a piece of paper and just having that stress consume you. So just being able to bring clarity and peace was just an amazing experience. If you could give advice to your younger self, you starting the beginning of your entrepreneurship journey, what would you say to them?
I think the theme of today's conversation has really been around communication. It was a known thing from my background in doing an entrepreneurship program, is really like, defining the culture from the get-go, like really sitting down, talking about expectations, talking about roles, talking about how we track progress, how we do project management, how we communicate, what do we use to communicate, and all of that stuff, the operations. Basically, like getting the operations down, getting the culture down. I would definitely tell myself to start there. That was the number one issue for why startups fail. Should have really drilled that down with the rest of the other members so that they were aware of that, and a little bit of having trust in myself. I think even at the beginning of the Mayor's Innovation Challenge, or near the end of it, I was onboarded to do machine learning, and I did my test, and I knew that was going to be a future feature, but honestly that wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was getting a better version of the minimal viable product out into the market as fast as possible. And with Kieran focusing on backend, it made more sense for you or I to do some development on the front end. And I was really averse to even learning, because I was scared, since I didn't have any experience in web development. Like, oh, I know how to program, but I've never done this. I've never learned this language. And I kept pushing months away from actually learning it and then actually applying it. That's one of the things that you pointed out, like right at the beginning of this call, that I know things, but I don't act on it. And I think I really held myself back and the team back in terms of progress, because now I'm in a position where I'm fairly confident in development, having done this for like maybe at least 6 months, I'd say, and actually contributing to the product in that way. So again, I would start with communication, be more confident, and don't procrastinate from actually doing stuff. Because when I do stuff, it ends up pretty good. And even if it doesn't, I have someone who supports me, Ethan, and I have the rest of the team to help me. That's the advice that I would give myself.
I agree. Communication, so important. Just don't be afraid to just say like, hey, I don't know what's going on. Be transparent, because if you don't really understand what's going on, most likely the person on the other side doesn't really understand what's going on either. And I think the biggest mistake was just choosing to ignore that and just hope that it would go away, but it doesn't. So being able to confront those situations and just not take it personally, but just take it in a rational way and say, hey, I don't understand this. Could we try to get on the same page? And that makes a world of a difference, especially when everyone's doing it for the first time, right? So there will be a lot of mistakes, there'll be a lot of failure, but that's part of the journey, right? Being able to look at it rationally, not take it personally, like I'm defined by my actions and my performance. It's like, this is good feedback. If I didn't do well, or this is not working, that means there's something there I can improve on. If I can improve on, I can iterate and go faster and faster until we do have something working. To tie it back, if you want culture, you can base it off other great companies and use that as reference. But if you yourself do not live that out, if you yourself don't have that character in you, it's going to be so much harder to bring that culture into the workplace. And if you don't know who you are, then that just makes it 10 times, 100 times more harder. How am I supposed to implement this if I don't know myself? So yeah, take some time to do discovery. Again, it won't be perfect. If anything, business is a great vehicle for character development. Entrepreneurship is good for growing yourself. Enjoy that process along the way, because you won't get there overnight, but if you learn to enjoy and have fun in the journey, I don't know, this sounds cliche, but genuinely, it's only a matter of time until you get to the destination. This is kind of cathartic, you know, like doing this reflection. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too.
Thank you guys for watching. Again, Expresume will be coming out very shortly, so stay tuned. And yeah, we'll update you what happens in the next season of Expresume.